Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. An erroneous conception which is found generally amongst very Muslims, even many Muslim scholars, is the notion that they think that in Islam, jihad is only and only for self-defense. Only when someone attacks you should Muslim attack back in the form of their collectivity. They must not attack offensively. And primarily this whole viewpoint is adduced from a verse of the Quran, and it says, وَقَاتِلُوا فِي سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ الَّذِينَ يُقَاتِلُونَكُمْ وَلَا تَعْتَدُوا. Fight in the way of God with those who fight against you, and do not transgress bounds. So the words say, as this verse goes on, it says that fight only against those people who fight you. And from these words, it is adduced, it is corroborated that only jihad should be carried out when the other person attacks you. Or in other words, jihad is only for self-defense. Now, it needs to be appreciated that in the times of the Prophet, there was a situation in which Muslims were commanded to do Hajj. And there was always a chance that if they go to Makkah to do Hajj, the Quraysh would retaliate. And if the Quraysh would retaliate, then the Almighty told Muslims, then they can also lift arms. So if the correct context of the verse which I just read out to you is realized, then it comes to mind that what actually was happening was that this particular directive has a particular context. According to this context, Muslims were told that if the Quraysh attack them in the vicinity of the Baytullah when they go to offer Hajj, only then should they retaliate. So in other words, this verse is not a general verse. It's a specific verse which related to the time of the Prophet when Muslims were going there, where they're going to Makkah to perform Hajj. So therefore, if the whole verse is read in its original context, the words are, وَلَا تُقَاتِلُوهُمْ إِنْدَ الْمَسْجِدِ الْحَرَامِ حَتَّى يُقَاتِلُوكُمْ فِيهِ فَإِنْ قَاتَلُوكُمْ فَاقْتُلُوهُمْ. But do not initiate war with them near the Baytullah unless they attack you there. And if they attack you, put them to the sword. So in other words, this particular verse relates specifically to a situation in which Muslims were going there to perform Hajj, and the Almighty told them that if the Quraysh lift their arms against them, then Muslims are also allowed to fight back. So therefore, this verse is absolutely specific. It cannot be generalized. As far as jihad in the offensive manner is concerned, as the offensive sense is concerned, we know that it is found in the Quran. And we know that jihad in the Quran is found primarily in two forms. The jihad which was waged by the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ and his companions against people who had deliberately denied the truth. Of course, it is mentioned in the Quran. It's an offensive form of jihad. For example, we have this verse, قَاتِلُوا الَّذِينَ لَا يُؤْمِنُونَ بِاللَّهِ وَلَا بِالْيَوْمِ الْآخِرِ وَلَا يُحَرِّمُونَ مَا حَرَّمَ اللَّهُ وَرَسُولُهُ وَلَا يَدِينُونَ دِينَ الْحَقِّ مِنَ الَّذِينَ أُوتُوا الْكِتَابَ حَتَّى يُعْطُوا الْجِزْيَةَ عَنْ يَدٍ وَهُمْ صَاغِرُونَ. So this is an absolutely offensive form of jihad. Of course, this was specific to the messengers of God and to his companions, but it cannot be said in the light of this verse that jihad was just carried out for self-defense. A simple translation of this verse would, of course, be very, very helpful in assessing the fact that this was an offensive jihad. This verse speaks of an offensive jihad. It says, fight those who believe not in Allah or the last day, nor hold that forbidden which has been forbidden by Allah and His Messenger, nor acknowledge the religion of truth from among the people of the book until they pay jizya and with willing submission and are subdued. So this verse speaks of an offensive jihad. Of course, this was specific to the prophets of God and their messengers, but the fact of the matter is that, of course, it is an offensive jihad. Now, the other form of jihad which the Quran speaks of, which is a part of the Sharia, and it's an eternal directive, is jihad against oppression, against persecution. And the Quran is very specific. It says that if some Muslim country is oppressing its citizens or the citizens of some other country, then if diplomatic tries fail and there is no other means to stop that nation, then Muslims in their collective capacity in the form of a state have this responsibility to curb that other polity which is conducting this oppression. And this jihad, as I said, is an eternal part of the Sharia, and it can be even waged today. And the words of this jihad is وَمَا لَكُمْ لَا تُقَاتِلُونَ فِي سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ وَالْمُسْتَضْعَفِينَ مِنَ الرِّجَالِ وَالنِّسَاءِ وَالْوِلْدَانِ الَّذِينَ يَقُولُونَ رَبَّنَا أَخْرِجْنَا مِنْ هَذِهِ الْقَرْيَةِ الظَّالِمِ أَهْلُهَا. And what has come over you, that you fight not in the cause of God, and for those weak, ill-treated and oppressed among men, women and children, whose cry is, our Lord, rescue us from this town of oppressors. So it is absolutely evident that in the Quran, it is not correct to say that jihad has only been told to be carried out for self-defense. As I said, there are two types of jihad mentioned in the Quran. One is specific to the messengers and their companions, and the other is something which is mentioned in the Sharia as an eternal directive of God. And in the presence of this, we cannot say, it would be an erroneous conclusion to draw that jihad is only for self-defense. أقول قولي هذا واستغفر الله لي ولكم ولسائر المسلمين والمسلمات.